What happens when you've given birth and either there's some sort of separation or you've determined that feeding your baby human milk is not the right choice for your family? How do you safely ensure that your milk decreases without getting infections, without feeling extra pain, without suffering more than needed? Let's talk about early weaning and what you can do to protect your mental health and to protect the safety of your breasts while you do this. Let's get into it. I'm bringing this topic up now because in my last episode with Glenna James, she discussed needing to wean early on. She was told she couldn't breastfeed. We're not sure in hindsight whether or not this was actually true or not. It sounds like it wasn't, but following the advice of her healthcare providers, and she weaned and fed her baby formula. And she talked about how painful it was to bind up her breasts and to keep the milk in. And this is incredibly painful, yet this is the advice our healthcare providers often give us. I have talked to many people who were struggling because they were ready to wean, whether it was early weaning or they've now fed their baby for as long as they wanted to, and they're ready to wean and not feed their baby human milk anymore. And their physicians, the pediatrician, tells them to bind their breasts, to wear tight-fitting bras. And although this works for some people, depending on how sensitive your body is to hormonal fluctuations, depending on how much milk you have to start with, this actually could lead to more pain and illness than is necessary. What should you do? When I first returned to work, I had no idea how I was going to manage going to work, handling drop-offs and pickups, and doing all the other duties I needed to do, like get dinner on the table between my husband and me. If you are in this situation, I've got a solution for you. Go to feastandfettle.com, where you can select from a menu of delicious options and have home-cooked meals delivered right to your front door. Imagine taking meal planning off your plate, taking grocery shopping off your plate for those dinners, and knowing that all you have to do is pick up your baby, get home, and heat and serve meals that you have selected for your family. If you live in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and now Maine, go to feastandfettle.com and use my code MILK, M-I-L-K, to get $30 off your first order. You've got nothing to lose. First of all, anyone who is in this situation, I urge you to recognize that whatever choice you are making, it is the right choice for you and your family. How do I know it's the right choice? Because you are making it. And nobody knows your body more than you. Nobody knows your baby more than you. Nobody knows your life circumstances more than you. What we know is that around 14 weeks, 16 weeks of pregnancy, that colostrum already begins forming. So many people leak during pregnancy, many people don't, and that's okay too. Many people start to harvest colostrum in the last trimester. So the milk is going to be there no matter what. The signal for the body to start releasing more milk is the delivery of the placenta. So once the placenta is expelled, there is a hormonal shift, which then signals to your body to start ramping up production of colostrum, production of mature milk, and to release that through the hormone oxytocin. One of many hormones, but it's the primary hormone that we recognize in this process of milk releasing. If you are wanting to just reduce your milk as quickly as possible, My suggestion is to use lots of ice to reduce swelling and inflammation so you do not feel engorged. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medications, Tylenol, ibuprofen. Follow your doctor's advice on the frequency, but you should definitely be using that to reduce swelling to the area as well. Lymphatic drainage massage will really help to move blood and lymph from the breasts and have it go back into the lymph system so that those milk ducts so that you don't get plugged ducts. And then the recommendation is to remove milk only as frequently as needed to reduce the feeling of engorgement. So if you're feeling really big and engorged and uncomfortable, either hand express, use a hand pump, or use a double electric pump to remove milk. But you're not going to stimulate the nipples so much that it's going to ramp up milk supply. So you're going to really be paying attention to your body to decide, is this enough to feel comfortable? Once it is, you will stop hand expressing, stop using the manual pump or stop using the electric pump, and just maintain that equilibrium of feeling full but not overly engorged. So for some people, they'll need to do this every couple of hours. For other people, you may need to do this every 5 or 7 hours, a few times a day. So it really is dependent on your milk supply. The whole point is to pay attention to your body, lean into what your body is telling you to do. Because the last thing you want in a situation in which you're trying to wean, regardless of whether there's a baby to take care of or not, the last thing that you want to do is to create a situation in which you have a plugged duct or mastitis, where you have to go on antibiotics and then potentially having an abscess. So using the ice, using the ibuprofen, and removing milk to comfort, not to empty, are going to be your best tools. Now, there are plenty of herbs that people use as well to try to reduce their milk supply. Sage is an herb that is recommended to reduce milk supply when you are trying to wean. This is not recommended for reduction in milk supply if you're struggling with oversupply, because it tends to be really effective. If you are trying to reduce your milk supply while weaning, you can use dried sage by taking 1/4 teaspoon of sage 3 times a day for 1 to 3 days. Some people don't like the taste of sage. You can mix it into a vegetable juice like V8. It doesn't really mix very well into other juices. You could also mix it into other foods or a broth, but you do want to be swallowing it whole and not chewing. You can also make a sage tea. You infuse 1 tablespoon of dried sage in 1 cup of boiling water, and you steep for 5 to 15 minutes. And you can drink 1 cup 2 to 6 times per day. There are also tinctures that you can get for sage, and I will link an article from kellymom.com that shows that. People do like to use green cabbage leaves topically on the breast to reduce supply and engorgement. I think this works because it is so cold that it helps reduce the inflammation. Many people recommend this. There's no reason not to do it. Just make sure that you change out the cabbage leaves very frequently so that bacteria doesn't build up on the leaves and create a bacterial infection in the breasts. Other herbs that can reduce milk supply are peppermint, spearmint, parsley, chickweed, black walnuts, stinging nettles. Make sure you use stinging nettles, not nettle, because that increases milk supply. And some people try using peppermint candies like Altoids, really strong ones, for decreasing milk supply, but a few per day aren't likely to affect supply, using them all throughout the day. So these are the tips for weaning once you are ready. And most of these tips are geared towards early weaning. So just ensuring that the milk supply does not fully come in the beginning or reducing supply right at the beginning. If you are looking for someone to help you with weaning, I'm your girl. I love doing weaning consults, and these are so easy to do virtually. I love figuring out what your individual situation is because everybody is different. I do not write the same weaning plan for every person. That wouldn't make sense. There are lots of variables that go into weaning. Are you working? Are you at home? Do you have other kids? Do you have help? What's the temperament of your baby? So there are lots of things to decide, and I need to learn what you're willing to do and not willing to do, what your comfort with crying is, how old your baby is. So there are lots of individualizations that can be done when a person is trying to wean. And if you are in the situation in which you would like to create a weaning plan, reach out to me, lo@quabbinbirthservices.com. I would love to be the person that helps you feel really good about weaning your baby or toddler. While you're weaning, if you would like to get just one more thing off your plate, go to feastandfettle.com, especially if you live in Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Maine. You can have home-cooked meals delivered right to your door, and that way there's one less thing to be stressed about. Bye.